It's not going to happen. We're here.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can't bring us down, buddy.
For those maybe excited that it was Adam Shine, Make It Rain. No, this is Money Moves.
Better hair, and I can wear glasses if you'd like.
Such good hair. And with our later start time, I washed my hair this morning. So, we've got a lot going on today. Welcome in to Hour 2 of the show. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. He's JVT. I'm Stormy Buonantony. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158, YouTube TV, VSiN Watch app, wherever you're watching or listening. We appreciate it. Lots to get to this hour. Coming up in 30 minutes, Geoff Schwartz, college football analyst, NFL analyst, former NFL offensive lineman. He's going to give us the lowdown on a lot of different topics, including the Shedeur Sanders stuff, because that has lit a fire in both Geoff Schwartz and Robert Griffin III. Apparently, they're going back and forth on Twitter this morning.
I couldn't care less.
That'll be so. I wasn't going to start here, but I guess I am here real quickly. I am very anti. I'm sorry. I'm very anti the Browns are out to get Shedeur Sanders and they are not putting him in a position to succeed intentionally. They wouldn't draft somebody that they didn't want to be good. I don't think that's the case. I think what we saw is a rookie quarterback who has come in, played well in one game, didn't play well in the other, showed some of the flaws and bad habits that we did see from him in college, holding onto the ball too long, taking the snap, not being able to read the defense, little things like that were an issue for him at times in college, just on a bigger stage here. He's a fifth-round pick. And he's looked like a fifth-round pick in terms of consistency to this point. I do not think that the Browns drafted him in the hopes that he would fail. I think that's ridiculous.
I would agree with all of that. And I have nothing further to add.
There's no way you have nothing further to add.
I would agree. I think it's stupid. I don't know what we're having this discourse for. I'm somebody who's very pro Shedeur Sanders. I thought he should have gotten a better crack at winning the job, or at least winning a backup job. I think he's a very talented quarterback, and I think he's going to have a solid career given his skill set. He also clearly has his weaknesses. He was never a perfect prospect. But the logical fallacy of a team drafting somebody to then undercut him is absolutely ridiculous, and I think speaks to maybe why he was falling, because you have to deal with this as opposed to actually talking about football.
Well, literally, Kevin Stefanski was asked after the preseason game, if he would address the narrative around him and the team trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders. That was a legitimate question he had after the game. And listen, the numbers for Shedeur were not great. 3 of 6, 14 yards. Faced the blitz 4 times, sacked on 3 of them, 5 overall, including that one really bad one that's made every highlight or low light reel for 24 yards. 1 first down in his 5 series, and then gets pulled for 2 minutes for Tyler Huntley to step in. So it was not a good performance. It was not a good look. But he's still likely going to make the team, right? With the way that their quarterback room shakes out. I know no official decisions have been made on what this is going to look like behind Joe Flacco, but Kenny Pickett is getting healthier, but we haven't seen him at all. Mm-hmm. They did draft Dylan Gabriel ahead of him, but Shedeur Sanders did have a really good start, and apparently he has been working well behind the scenes. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet.
I agree as well on these statements.
We can move on. I'm sorry. It's just annoying.
Grinds
I don't know
your
why
gears,
people.
Huh?
It does. It grinds my gears. You don't want to talk about anything that I want to talk about. The news of the day was that the Commanders extended Terry McLaurin. You don't care about that. Oh,
shocker.
You don't care about that.
Well, I think
you don't care about the Eagles trades. You don't care about.
If we're being very honest, from a betting perspective for our audience, ooh, Terry McLaurin re-signed. I've said this 1,000 times. Wake me up when the games start and these guys aren't re-signed. Even today, we get news from Jordan Schultz that was you know what? Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals, they're back at the table. They're going to talk about it. We do this all the time. Oh, my God, player A, he's not re-signed. What could it mean? He wants an extension. He's holding in. Oh, good God. And then we get to, the last week of August, and it's player A is re-signed. Yeah, I know. We do it all the freaking time.
Well, help me find out what's going to happen with Juwan Jennings, if you don't mind, because you hear Kyle Shanahan the other day.
You're calling him a faker with the injury.
I think that it's more of a contract than it is a calf, if we're really being open and honest about it.
Would you say that to his face?
That said, yeah, I'd probably slap him. No, that's an inside joke.
What's that?
That's an inside joke from behind the scenes.
You would assault
That as I said it, I realized no one in our audience will get, and that I can't say out loud, so apologies. But
I don't even get that. What's that in reference
from the video you were showing me earlier?
Oh, okay.
The Barstool thing.
Yeah, that's
so I guess I can't say that out.
It's a Barstool thing from Jeff Nadu.
But I don't know him. I don't want to call out anyone. Neither here nor there.
Wow, that took a turn.
But I saw a report. So right after Kyle Shanahan says, thinks he's optimistic. He thinks that Juwan Jennings can be ready to go week 1. Right after that, we see a report that the 49ers might put him on injured reserve and okay, so that's how we're going to start the year. I don't know. Neither here nor there. The McLaurin thing and the Trey Hendrickson and the Micah Parsons, any of those, where I do think there could be a potential betting impact is if not being a part of practice then impacts when you do get out there on the football field. And if you are a believer in that rust thing early season.
No, I mean, I think these guys take care of themselves. And again, for all of these, we are talking about players who have been parts of these systems now for a while. I mean, you're learning things. For Trey Hendrickson, I mean, his biggest strength is rushing the passer. I think he's going to be able to integrate himself into, yes, what is a new defense, but I'm also sure that behind the scenes, you're taking care of your body. You're learning what you need to learn about the offense. You can do all of these things, or defense in Hendrickson's case and others. You can do all of these things while also holding in. There's a reason why a guy like Hendrickson's there. So I don't think there's, on my end, any worry that athletes of this caliber are going to be off in any sense by the time we get to the regular season because of some whatever contract situations, because I don't think part of holding in or holding out or whatever it is sitting on the couch and pounding Cheetos. I think it's just not participating to an extent where you make the team sweat it out. Again, with the overarching threat being, I will not show up week one.
And hey, everybody, if you are like us, excited for football season and you think you're better than the experts, you're going to have an opportunity to prove it this year in the Edge Boost Average Joe contest. Same format as the Circa Friday Football Invitational in years past, but contestants are average Joes instead of the pros. Free to play. You can register anytime throughout the season to still be eligible for weekly and quarterly prizes. And the grand prize, a spot in next year's 25 Pro Handicapper Circa Invitational field. You can sign up now at vsin.com/Joe. And speaking of contests, so Circa Survivor, Circa Million, all of that coming up here. And you, in bright red in the rundown, put that you have some thoughts on a potential Circa Survivor play for week one. Maybe something we haven't discussed yet. What do you got?
We should use the Steelers.
Why?
So
where did this change of heart come all of a sudden?
We were talking about this over the weekend, and it is a little change of heart. You're right. No, you're right. It is a change of heart because I find myself to be somewhat pro-Jet, as we have talked about. I do have a Jets
you're
plus
pro-Jet,
yeah.
You're anti-Steelers, and this is a game in New York.
Now, to be fair, I have voiced that I have come around on the Steelers a couple of times.
Yes.
Looking at what they've done in the defense, improving their secondary, having watched the Jets a little bit here, and watching Justin Fields play quarterback. Now, what is
but we
somewhat
also
unfair,
haven't watched Aaron Rodgers play quarterback.
Correct. And what is somewhat unfair here is that we're talking about 12 dropbacks in the preseason, but we're talking average depth of target of just under 4.5 yards for Justin Fields. It's been really bad, 5.1 yards per attempt. But it's of the concept of, okay, you have shown and I agree with it, a pause, if you will, a trepidation on piling on some of these popular selections, whether it's the Broncos against the Titans, whether it is the Cardinals on the road against the New Orleans Saints. So where would you put yourself in a position to have a team that is favored against a lesser opponent that might be a sweat, might not be as popular, but would find yourself on the right side of it when the smoke clears? And I think that it is fair to ask the Steelers, who you don't really have a ton of opportunities moving down because they play in such a tough division. They're not involved in, if I remember correctly, any key games when we're talking about Thanksgiving or Christmas. And if they are, they're going to be underdogs in those games. So it's not like we're going to take them other than a situation in which a team they are facing has an injury that we cannot predict at this point right now. In other words, there's just not going to be many opportunities to use the Steelers. If you want to avoid being on the popular selection of sides of the Cardinals and the Broncos, a Steelers team against a Jets team that all of a sudden could find itself with a quarterback that can't play against an improved secondary and a pass rush that can get after him, all of a sudden I think the Steelers become more viable. It's something I was discussing with Drew Dinsick and Kelly Bidlin over the weekend after the great seminar that the guys put on here at Circa, and more I've thought about okay, what are the different ways we can do it? I have jokingly suggested the Colts, and I would seriously fight for it a little bit more if their secondary was not absolutely riddled with injuries. This seems like one of those potential middle grounds, if you will, to use for Survivor Week 1.
This is hilarious. I don't hate it. I'm just shocked that it's coming from your mouth.
Got to think logically. Got to put aside priors. Maybe I'm wrong about the Jets. And maybe you could thread the needle in the big picture. Maybe I'm right about the Jets and I'm wrong about this particular game against the Steelers. But the more I've thought about it, the more it makes sense that this might be one of our options.
I think, and I am one of the people that is a believer that Aaron Rodgers is going to work. I even thought about putting in Call Me Crazy today. The Steelers are just going to do it again. They're going to have 9+ wins. They're going to be a playoff team. That was one of the options for me to go in to that segment earlier today. I don't like that it's on the road, and I don't like that we haven't seen a ton from Aaron Rodgers in actual game action because all of the reports are just so glowing, but we've seen that before as well when he was with the Jets. So I would like to, in my brain, use that as a feeling out game, but I am very, very pro Steelers this year.
Okay, so this is one for consideration.
I think it is. And honestly, what you said about Justin Fields real quickly, really, as I have watched him in the preseason, and again, to your point, it's limited, but what we know about him historically as well has just made me absolutely hate my Garrett Wilson over 950.5 it was my last pick in the recent Pro Football Futures draft, thinking he's maybe quarterback proof and would still get a 1,000-yard season and all that stuff. I'm like, maybe not. We're gonna need a lot of yak.
I'll warn you ahead of time. Not that I'm gonna do it like all the time. I think home field's worth like maybe 1.5 points. So I'm not one that will shy away from using a road team if we have to.
Okay.
So
I don't hate it.
All right, under consideration.
So
my top two selections in no particular order. Let's just, for the record, I will say Arizona and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Arizona and Denver are what the top two are going to be, and I think Denver decidedly
No, I'm saying my personal top.
But yes, yours.
Yeah, it's a good Stormy.
I don't hate it. It's so hard when you have two people having to make one selection, $1,000 on the line, potentially millions on the line.
When one of them won't make.
When one of them doesn't know what to eat for dinner any given night. It's the life we live. Okay, we've got to step aside when we come back. I'm so football heavy. Time for a little MLB. We got 13 games on deck today, some division races in flux. We'll get into it all next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before the line moves, the sharp plays is already there. They don't just follow the market, they help move it. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sportsbooks or full-time sharps on your own, but with the sharp plays, you don't have to. Powered by AI advanced technology and plugged into trusted insider sources, the sharp plays delivers the edge serious bettors use every day. Free betting reports, real-time alerts, and market-moving insights sent straight to your inbox or X feed since 2011. The Sharp Plays has delivered documented results, public logs, transparent receipts. Sharpplays.com, trusted by the pros. Check it out today. Stay ahead of the line. He's JVT. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We are Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Geoff Schwartz joining us in about 15 minutes. Best bets at the end of the hour. Got some MLB talk here, but you just got a notification on the watch.
Yeah,
so
a little bit of breaking news. This does matter to an extent. Raiders wide receiver Jacoby Myers has met with Team Brass and requested to be traded.
Ooh.
So that matters, obviously, because Myers was supposed to be part of an offense that they get some really strong upside. Yeah. Obviously, with him, Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty. Now, Ian Rappaport has followed up with, because of his value, the team has denied the request. So we'll see what that ultimately leads to. But I would say, top wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, that's going to be something.
This feels out of nowhere. I know you cover the Raiders a lot more, and like you and Adam Hill are really good friends too, who's obviously one of the reporters on that beat here locally. This came out of nowhere in my mind.
Yes.
Like, why would he be asking for a trade?
See, we never know what's going on behind the scenes. So obviously something transpired in which he believes that he wants to get out of here.
Getting too much love.
Yeah, he doesn't like Chip Kelly. I mean, doesn't like Geno. Who knows what it is?
Ashton Genty's the new star.
Yeah.
Can't take it.
I guess. But it's weird too, because to the point of not seeing it coming, outside of Brock Bowers, he was set up to have Myers, that is, a very strong year.
Yeah.
They don't really have a ton of depth. Jack Besh is noted. Could maybe, I guess, like be eating at some of the snaps, but this is somewhat odd. And I mean, I guess I'm shocked for a franchise as well run as the Raiders. That this would just break out of nowhere, but just worth noting. Again, the team is saying is that they're not going to do it. What's up?
Where did you lean on their win total this year?
I felt that I wanted to go more game-to-game ATS if they were going to be this plucky offensive group. I think they're going to be so bad on defense, and I think that's going to hurt you more often than not. And I don't think your offense is good enough to be able to overcome how weak your defense is going to be. So in certain situations, when you're talking about staying inside of point spreads, I think that's a viable option for a team like the Raiders. But to ask them to win 7, 8, 9 games in what looks like a division rife with parity and an AFC as a whole that is going to be pretty tough, I just don't know if their defense is going to be able to hold out. I think their secondary is going to be horrid. It might be one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL, and I think that's going to hold them back more often than not.
Yeah, particularly not going to fare well in that AFC West, where you've got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, who obviously Sean Payton believes in and wants to give more and more opportunities to in the passing game. By the way, while we're on the Raiders, while Geno Smith has come over and is QB1, Aiden O'Connell expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured right wrist. So that's where I was going with that in my head. So Cam Miller, North Dakota State, will be QB2 in that lineup.
And we should know, and since we're talking about this, we will learn very fast if this Raiders defense is as bad as I think they are. The quarterbacks they will face early on are Drake May, Justin Herbert, Jaden McDaniels, but Caleb Williams, Danny Dimes, Cam Ward. You're facing some pretty raw and youngish quarterbacks at the beginning of this schedule. If you're getting picked apart by the Patriots, the Colts, the Titans, then look at the schedule as you move forward outside of that Browns game. There are a lot of high-level quarterback play that you're going to be facing that's going to be really rough for this team from Week 7 on, we should say. So we will learn very quickly if this is going to be a secondary that's going to be as bad as we think it is. Because if in 3 or 4 of those games you're absolutely getting dominated by those teams, look out.
Let's go to a little Major League Baseball, something we didn't talk about earlier that was big news, obviously, over the weekend. Your MLB home run leader, Cal Raleigh, added to the tally this weekend. Most home runs ever by a catcher. Hits 48th and 49th yesterday against the A's. It's also his 9th multi-home run game this season, most by a Mariner in franchise history. Yes, surpassing Ken Griffey Jr. in that. He's still your second shot for AL MVP, though. Plus 110 on DraftKings, as high as plus 135 out there if you shop around in the market. Aaron Judge, a minus 160 favorite. He's got 40 homers to Raleigh's 49, and obviously home runs do not decide this. There are a lot of other things that come with that. But
they shouldn't decide it.
But
for some they will.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, with what Cal Raleigh has done as a catcher first and foremost, and if he does reach 60 with 4 or 5 weeks left in the season, you need 2 a week? Like it's very doable. And I don't know, you've followed MLB awards a lot more than I have more closely, but would they not be excited for maybe potentially new blood for a guy who's come out of nowhere?
Well, I don't think they would be excited because a lot of them reside out there on the East Coast. So,
New Yorkers.
Yeah. I don't know if they would be. I don't know if they know that the Seattle Mariners are a franchise, to be quite honest with you. I don't know. I think they have to. I think this sounds very unfair. I don't know if this is going to be true or not. I think they have to win the division for him to have a chance. I think that the voters who decide this award will arbitrarily hold that against him. Not Aaron Judge, by the way, on a team who is probably not going to win their respective division. I think that's probably going to ultimately hurt him. Judge has really quieted down, as we've discussed, since the beginning of July, hitting just about 250, not putting up the numbers that his season-long metrics would overall indicate. But I think he's probably done enough for a lot of these voters at the early portion of the year that that's not going to be it. But to your point, if you tell me that Aaron Judge and the Yankees, which they're not out of the woods by any stretch, they just lost 3 out of 4 to Boston, and they hold just a 3-game lead or 3.5-game lead over the Royals, who are playing much better baseball now. If Judge falls out of the playoffs with this Yankees team, can you realistically give it to a guy who then goes on to win his division and hit 60 home runs? I don't know how the voters would handle that overall. Okay. Will Judge be cursed by the failings of his own team as a whole, or will Raleigh be weighted down by the fact that just the writers are very pro-New York and will give it to Judge and give him the benefit of the doubt because of such a strong start to the year?
Yeah, and I know the Mariners just had that tough stretch against the Mets and Phillies, but bounced back, winning 2 of 3 against the A's. They're only 2 games back in that division. Still an opportunity. They're in action today against the San Diego Padres. I know that's not one of the games that caught your eye. Which was the kind of one that raised to the top today for you? 13-game slate we've got coming up this afternoon.
Hard not to go to the National League East, where we have a big series getting started between the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. We have a good pitching matchup to start as well. Christopher Sanchez getting the start. Kodai Senga will oppose him. So this is one on the overnight that immediately I was in on. I'm like, let's do this thing. And we saw this open up at a pick between the two. And now all of a sudden, this line moved 30 cents in the direction of the Philadelphia Phillies. They're down at $1.35 favorite in some spots on the road against Kodai Senga and the Mets. This is, to me now, pretty interesting as we're reaching the point where probably a little too high when you're talking about the overall price. Sanchez has been great. We know how awesome it has been whenever he has started, and it has been relatively consistent for Sanchez, too. The numbers, for those who maybe aren't familiar with him off the top of the head, 2.46 ERA, 2.63 fielding independent. I think he is a pitcher, and this team is good enough that from a power rating standpoint, they deserve to be favored with him starting on the road, even against a team the caliber of the Mets. And we know what the Mets have been for the last month or so. The question, I think, just becomes, when does the market, if at all, buy back on the Mets and Kodai Senga here? I think that's the real question. Market's kind of moved away from the price where I thought it was playable for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now it just becomes, when does the market deem, you know what, give me this with Kodai Senga. Here's the problem. 2.58 ERA, 4.08 fielding independent. There are some signs here for Senga that he is due for some sort of regression. The walks have been a pretty big problem for him. He's not striking out guys and generating swings and misses at the rate that he did in the early portions of like 2023. Swing and miss numbers are down. So I think there's a reason why the market moved in the direction of Sanchez outside of supporting him, maybe going against Senga. But obviously a fascinating game in a very big spot for these two teams that are within inches of each other in the standings.
I did bet under 8. I see there is still like one out there, but we're mostly 7.5s right now. I was looking at the F3, F5, F7. I was looking like all those unders. The F3 under 2.5 really intrigued me as the cheaper of those options at minus 135. Citi Field does play more to an under. Both of these have been under teams this year, and Phillies bats wise, 6th best team to the under in 2025, and their offense is a very different team at home than on the road. Yeah. They're like a top 3 offense in MLB when they are at home, and they're bottom 10 on the road. So that was like another factor, too, where maybe the Phillies have just been bet out a little bit too high for a number there you would have want to played them at. That really lended me more toward the under, just looking at kind of where that shook out with these pitchers who we also agree are very good. The game that got kind of my first impression, Rose, of the day was actually the Blue Jays and Twins. But what number are we out to right now?
I'm looking at $1.45 in favor of Toronto.
So it's a little bit heavy.
Some spots are $1.50, yeah.
Max Scherzer's just been awesome. Last 4 starts, gone 6+ innings in all 4, gave up a combined 5 runs in those 25 innings. His ERA went from 4.39 to 6.30, taking on Joe Ryan in Minnesota and a Twins team that has not been playing good baseball, which is to be expected when you give away half your roster, too. Blue Jays at home have a really good record, 42-21 in Toronto this season. So it's a little bit heavy now, but I still might end up on it when all is said and done. This was the first one that really caught my eye, just a pitching advantage against a Twins team that doesn't have anybody anymore, and they're at home. So rolling with Max Scherzer and company, likely, as well as the under in that Phillies-Mets game. Okay, we're going to step aside. Geoff Schwartz of the Bear Bets podcast, college football and NFL betting analyst, joins us coming up after a quick break.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you as hour 2 of the program rolls on. Remember, if you missed any of the first hour of the program, you can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Speaking of pods, our next guest is locked and loaded as a star of a couple of them. Geoff Schwartz joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, part of the Bear Bets podcast family, also here on VSiN, the GM Shuffle with Dave Ross, great betting analyst, former NFL offensive lineman for years, my co-host on this program for a hot minute there. Geoff, what's going on, buddy? How are you today?
I am glad football is back. Thursday.
Yes.
A few more days of no football. We got that taste this weekend. Even the preseason counts, okay? A little Saturday football, and Thursday just begins. Like, full steam ahead. I cannot wait.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What I love most about this week is that we really get it every single day. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We are loaded with opportunity each and every day of the week.
Yes, and then, of course, Thursday NFL begins, and then it's just like full steam ahead. We got a national game Thursday, national game Friday, back to Saturday on Sunday. And this weekend, too, like, the games are great. Like, to have a weekend where you have those 3 big marquee games is pretty special for college football.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a little distracted because, Jeff, I feel like Shedeur Sanders was never given equal opportunity to compete with Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. Showed us that throughout training camp of the preseason, if it was a real competition, Dylan and Shedeur would have played with the same talent around them in the last game, Jeff.
Okay, so
You
many,
made him have a choke
so many
attack.
things with the Shedeur thing. One is this myth of competition. It's a complete myth. There's really no such thing as competition. I know coaches say that. And what's funny is former players that talk about this like it's real. They know the difference. They've been in these competitions before, and they're the same people, of course, that will claim that don't listen to coaches, don't listen to what they say, and yet they're hanging on every word that Stefanski says. A competition is really what's shown to you when you get your practice reps. Sanders is a third or fourth string quarterback. That's what he gets. Those are the reps he gets. It's like no grand conspiracy. He was treated the same as every other quarterback that was drafted in the 5th round or 6th round that was 4th string. Today, Kyle McCord was cut by the Eagles. Was he given a fair shake to make the roster? I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? It's only fair depending on what the coaching staff thinks is the amount of reps you should get. And so it's just really silly. Like, we're arguing basically whether he's Dwight Schrute, whether he's the assistant to the assistant regional manager. We're arguing whether he should be the second backup, right? Because it's Joe Flacco, okay? It's Kenny Pickett for now. And then we're arguing if he should be the second backup. That's what this is over. The second backup. Whether the competition was fair enough for him to be the second backup is what we're arguing about.
And this, by the way, if you want some entertainment, go see Geoff Schwartz on social media right now. Him and our guy RG3 having a little fun debate there. But my favorite tweet actually came from earlier this weekend with you responding to somebody else saying, I remember being a young offensive lineman fighting for a job. My O-line coach came up to me and said, hey, Schwartz, you need to block worse when Smith is playing quarterback so he looks bad. Totally normal conspiracy. Happens all the time.
Just remember, guys, anything can be a conspiracy if you want it to be, right? If you want to believe hard enough that the Browns, for some reason, are screwing Shedeur Sanders, I don't know why. Why would they want that? The Browns have really no long-term plan at quarterback. Wouldn't they love if Sanders or Dylan Gabriel was the long-term option? It'd save them a lot of money, right? The 5th-round quarterback. Next year, use your pick on someone else to help him. So, there's no motive for them to sabotage him, and it's just lazy. Look, Sanders played well in his first game. He didn't play well in this second game. That's what a 5th-round rookie does. But we're treating him like a 1st-round pick. I don't get why. He's a 5th-round pick. That's where he was drafted. You have to evaluate him based on where he was drafted. And the reps go by where you get drafted. That's how you start. And you have to outperform. You have to earn, essentially, more reps, right? Did he do enough in practice to be so much better than Dylan Gabriel to where the Browns felt like he needed a better chance? The answer, obviously, is no for now. And he showed in his game on Sunday or Saturday, every play. He didn't play very well, and that's fine. He's a rookie. You have ups and downs as a rookie.
Geoff Schwartz joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. And so since this is something I'm sure we're all worn out talking about, let's go from something we don't want to talk about anymore to something I'm sure you do. What is your favorite bet of the NFL season that you have made to this point as we get set to enter week 1 next week?
Chiefs to win the division. It might be still minus 120. I don't know. What a silly price. I think people are underestimating the Chiefs this year because we just don't want to like them anymore because they've won the division so many years. And the Broncos, don't get me wrong, I think the Broncos are moving in the right direction. I think the Chargers are moving in the right direction. But I want to reiterate something I keep bringing up about Kansas City. Last year, they were not healthy at wide receiver. Right? Rashee Rice got hurt at the beginning of week 4. Hollywood Brown was not there. He was hurt. And they had to rely on Xavier Worthy and pieces to make it work. And then obviously Travis Kelce, who he even admitted was a little out of shape and maybe a little rounder. This year he looks much better. You have year 2 Worthy. Rashee is healthy. Brown is healthy. And I know it's the preseason. I get it. I understand. But the way they attacked the Bears the other night, if that's what their offense is going to be, which looked a lot more like the pre-COVID Kansas City Chief offense, which is up-tempo, high-flying, play-action pass, throw the ball deep, they're going to be even better than last season. The defense has to be just fine. It's all they need, just fine. And they're motivated. They got embarrassed last year. So I still like Kansas City to win that division.
All right, Geoff. Any other parting NFL thoughts? Because I do want to get your thoughts on college football before we get you out of here. Any other hot takes in the National Football League you need to get off your chest?
No. Let's go right to college football.
Okay, because I want to ask about your alma mater here, Oregon. I am down on them in the sense of a team that is rated as they are. I don't think they're going to win 4 games, but I do think that there's a chance that they have floating around an 8 to 9 win season, and that's more likely than getting to that 10 or 11 win mark. What do you make of what Oregon has in front of them this year?
Why is that? I've heard this from a couple of people. What's the reason?
To me, it's quarterback play. I don't know what that's going to look like, and the injury at wide receiver, I think, is a little bit of a downturn. And I think there's a fair argument to ask that our guy, why am I blanking on your head coach's name all of a sudden? I absolutely
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning, thank you very much. That was a weird brain fart. That Lanning has had a litany of veterans along this offense, and now he's actually trusting some young dudes to really take a step forward in a pretty good conference.
Well, that's certainly true. Dante Moore, year 3, has got to be there. The only thing that the pushback I have the most, I think, for this discussion is that people are elevating a team like Iowa, who has an FCS transfer quarterback who might be really good, but we're elevating sort of him very high and then putting Dante Moore down. I don't quite get that. Or Bryce Underwood's a true freshman is going to be like that much better than Dante Moore. Playing as a true freshman is hard. Dante Moore is a true freshman at UCLA, started on the road at 10-win Utah and 10-win Oregon State. Those are hard games for true freshmen to play. Like that's a hard task. He sat last year. He got better, obviously. I'll say this. I've followed Lanning enough now over the years. I think he thinks the team is going to be pretty good. Just the vibe I get. You're right. Wide receiver, it's going to be a lot of new. They're relying, honestly, on a 5-star true freshman to be their best player. That does worry me. He's not Jeremiah Smith, but he's good. The offensive line is going to be fine, in my opinion. There's some question marks at D tackle, just depth and rotation, players that have to develop now and play a lot more. The thing I will end with this is that in 3 years there, Dan Lanning has really lost one game he shouldn't have lost. That was Oregon State year 1, where they were up 17 points in fourth quarter and lost. He's 35-6. He's lost 4 of his games to playoff teams. Like I think that in the other game was a 10-win Washington team, and obviously the Beaver game. They don't lose a lot of games. They shouldn't. And that's why I think they're really at sort of 10 wins at minimum this year.
Plus, I don't know. I think Dante Moore is just in a little bit of a different position than he was previously, right? Like, he's had a year behind Dylan Gabriel with Will Stein. He's got a way better offensive line than he did in the past as well. I'm actually really excited to see Mekhi Hughes running behind that offensive line. So I think I side more with you. Because you mentioned Oregon State, though, we were talking before we came on. You like them in week 1. Any other week 1 bets that you have made so far?
Yeah, so I've made 3 so far. I might make the Beaver one after we get off. I like Georgia Tech minus the 4 at Colorado. It's really a fate of Colorado, but also just a positive for Georgia Tech. I like what they have returning, especially quarterback and running back. I like the veteran secondary. I think Colorado's not going to be good this season. I like Nebraska minus 6.5 against Cincinnati. That is a game at Arrowhead. It's not at Cincinnati. I think Nebraska's just really good this year. Like, this is more of a pro Nebraska take. I think they're going to be a team competing for a playoff this season. And the other one that I have is I took Utah. I wonder what it's at. I think they're all Big 12 teams, I guess. Utah minus the 6.5 at UCLA. Final game of week 1. I think Utah wins the Big 12. The Bruins, I think, have 7. No, they don't have 70 new guys. They have 42 guys that off the roster from last year. Whole bunch of new guys. I like Deshaun Foster. I think he's going to be fine at UCLA. I just like Utah a lot this season.
I know we have to go to the break. Since you did all Big 12, though, what did you think of that Iowa State K-State performance?
I love the aggressiveness of Matt Campbell at the end. Always go for it. Always be aggressive. It always pays off in the end. If it doesn't, whatever, man. But I'm glad they went for the score, went for the touchdown. Obviously, very funny. First game of the year, half of football for a total. Great way to end it.
Dude, I love it. First game of the year, and the total's in the balance. Crazy. Geoff, you're awesome as always. Appreciate your time, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
Geoff Schwartz, everybody. Follow him on X, as we mentioned earlier. Check out the Bear Bets podcast, the GM Shuffle podcast. He and Dave Ross do a great job. We're going to step aside our best bets next, coming up here on Money Moves. A handful in college football, as well as MLB. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
New time slot. Who dis? So we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Working on that one, huh?
Wrapping up our
holstered
first day in the new time slot. How did you feel? Were you well rested today? You don't sleep, so I wondered how this time slot would work for you.
Yeah, I didn't really dig it that much, to be quite honest with you.
Too much time in the morning for you.
Correct. That's really what it was. I was just I was doing work on other things, so it's not like it was the worst thing in the world. By the way, the Brooklyn Nets have a really interesting roster. You could tell what I was working on today. Same thing with the Celtics. But I'll get used to it. The best part is I get to see my pals, Mitch and Paul, every day now
beautiful.
on the way in. How about that?
Yes, Follow the Money, of course, coming up in about
Following
15
us.
minutes. I liked it. It was nice having a little extra time in the morning. And, I am a sleeper. I'm very pro rest. But the thing was,
I'm
today,
still firing away on the rundown early this morning. No response.
So this was my first time, though, getting used to the traffic on the way into work at this time slot.
Dude.
What?
I'm telling you, not to cut you off, because now I have a sense of where you now live. I followed you the other day.
Stalker.
Your commute is going. You're gonna hate it. Because I lived on that side of town on the way in. I know our national audience is really curious. I am telling you, you're going to hate it.
Love that for me.
I'm telling you.
Thank you so much. Well, I wanted to make sure I gave myself a little extra time today because I hadn't come at this time
Needed every minute of it.
Dude, I get here.
I'm telling you.
I've got about an hour to spare. So I was pretty impressed with myself. I was like, okay, this is great. This isn't going to be that bad. I go to my bag to come walk inside. Computer's not there, which is what you've become famous for, I feel like. This is like the last couple of weeks, you forgot your computer. Like one day, you either had to go back to use it. Well, this has never happened to me before, okay? And it's our first day in this new time slot for our new audience. And I have to drive all the way back home, which to your point is not close. And as I'm hopping on the freeway to get onto the 15 to go home, there is a 6-car pileup right on that on-ramp.
Have fun.
Dead standstill. I'm like, I don't even know if I'll be able to turn around just to come back without the computer and figure it out. We made it, lo and behold, but still, it made me got a little bit of anxiety here for show number 1. I think we've been going strong so far. So hopefully,
said a lot of things. I'm not proud of making that commute to work.
Yes.
In my car.
Yes. Yelling at a lot of people that can't hear me.
That's right.
That said, hopefully we've had positive vibes on the show thus far. So I'm hoping that we can end on a high note as well with our best bets of the day, which as always are presented by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. And we've got some college football bangers from you right off the gate here.
Yeah, it's week 1. Let's get going here. All right, so we talked about a couple of these. I would love to get your thoughts generally on how this contest will play out in no specific angles whatsoever. I did bet Cal Oregon State under 51.
Okay.
We've talked about some of these key-ish numbers in terms of totals. I think this is going to be one where first off, I don't know if Cal's going to be particularly great on offense. Quarterback,
Jaron Kiave Sangapulu-Tele.
thank you, is a player I have not gotten my eyes on or know what to expect, but I think he lacks for some talent at the skill positions. I think Oregon State's floor is, for a team of their caliber, relatively high given what they have coming back on defense, especially up front. I think this is going to be a pretty, again, if you're talking about in the realm of taking on teams within their power rating stratosphere, is going to be a relatively strong Oregon State defensive team. Mm-hmm. I think you corroborate that a little bit more because I think you said you've looked at Oregon State a little bit more here. And I like what they bring on offense, and I think part of the offense for Oregon State is going to be establishing that ground game in a very big way. They have a strong tailback. They have the ability to, I think, run the ball. If they want to, a quarterback, Malik Murphy has not really been a runner in his career, but if they need to, they can. I just think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring, ugly, run the ball, kind of some offense stuck in the mud type of game at night that is going to get pretty low scoring. I thought 51, 52 was pretty high. Didn't get the best of it, but did get under 51.
Yeah, I think for Oregon State, Trent Bray coming back for his second year as the full-time head coach now has the comfortability to put his hands back on the defense. And last year, you could tell there were moments when that defense really struggled, that he was probably regretting that decision. And so when he was the defensive coordinator previously, they had a really good defense. And now he's got a lot of pretty good pieces in that he feels good about. I know Dexter Foster is somebody who's got potential X-factor potential on that side of the ball. A handful of pieces on defense that I think should be much improved. And to your point, against an offense in Cal that lost its quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. I know that there's, I'm sure, excitement in the program like 2-3 year plan wise about having a true freshman that's starting right now, but he is still a true freshman at this point that we don't know what we're going to get. You lose your top 2 running backs, including Jaden Ott, who I think is, when healthy, one of the best running backs in the country, several wide receivers, and your best tight end who's now at Texas. So I understand the thought process fully.
Yeah. Another total I bet under Fresno State, Georgia Southern, bet that under 52. Still a couple of 52s out there, 51.5s as well are starting to appear here. Similar concept. I think what we know about Fresno State, it's actually, if you remember, we talked about this last week, the number had gone by, but I really like Kansas and Fresno State under if it can get back to that number because you figured that Fresno State was going to be a team, and we kind of saw it, wants to establish run, doesn't really get great quarterback play. But I do believe in Fresno State from a defensive standpoint, especially their defensive backfield. And against, again, to use the term, a like-rated opponent where you're going to be on a much more even playing field than you would on the road against Kansas. Coming back home against Georgia Southern, a matchup in which your defense can dictate a little bit more. You can actually execute your running game. They were abysmal on the ground against Kansas, which I think is somewhat worrisome, especially their offense as a whole. I think it's just not really going to be great. They had a 75-yard touchdown drive to start against Kansas and then absolutely nothing after. I think this is, again, going to be a team that's going to somewhat play to the under, and I think we're going to start to see that. So thought it was the angle in the first game. We'll go back to it one more time. Played Fresno State, Georgia Southern, under 52.
Okay. The only college football play I'm going to put in and set in stone is one that we already mentioned a little bit earlier, Notre Dame, Miami, going head-to-head. Instead of
Catholics and convicts.
Instead of laying the number on the road, I'm just going to go with the money line. It's a cheap -130 price, and I think that Miami's got some things that they've got to figure out a little bit, but it's less a fate of Miami and more just I'm very pro Fighting Irish here. And I think those two early season games that they have against Miami and against Texas A&M, albeit two of the toughest games on their schedule, I think they have the potential to win them both. So I like the -130 price.
Don't disagree at all.
There, and then two baseball plays for me today on the 13-game slate. We already talked MLB this hour, but I am on the Blue Jays at home. Circa has -142, so I'm going to roll with them on the money line against a Twins team that has been brutal. Max Scherzer, meanwhile, has been really good. So going there, and then the Phillies Mets under 8. It was -115 price for me. Mostly 7.5s out there, so shop around. I do see one rogue 8 still available if you are in. If that is of interest for you.
All right. By the way, the other two really quickly. South Florida +6.5 and LSU +4 for week 1.
LSU.
Yeah, baby. Let's do this thing.
So, yeah, you mentioned the South Florida. You thought that number should be closer to 4 with Boise State.
Yeah. And I will say, because you mentioned the surprise for LSU, because we are pro Clemson as a show. They were our number 2 team ranked in the country.
I am surprised by
but
that.
I am very pro LSU as well. And I think that there is something to be said, not that Clemson's not doing this, there's something to be said of, I think, LSU really focusing on this game in week 1.
I was gonna say, Brian
Yes.
Kelly is driving that point home.
Yes, and maybe even to the point where it's, as we move forward, almost similar to, like, I think this is part of the line move. We didn't mention this with Hawaii and Arizona for next week. I was very happy to see Timmy Chang embrace Tim Murray and go, thank you, oh, it's great. They put a lot into that game to get that first win. And now to have to go on the road to take on Arizona in the next week is going to be a pretty interesting spot where I think it's going to be a little bit of a letdown, especially with a one-legged Micah Alejado. But it's the same thing here where I wonder what the bounce back is going to be for LSU after putting in so much effort here. I also think it is fair, the more I've looked into Clemson and have heard some of the arguments against the team dating back to last year, some of its shortcomings, that team generally coming back intact. I believe in Cade Klubnik a lot, but there were some pretty poor defensive performances from this team. And in conference play, this is a team that I think is going to be able to pick at some of those weaknesses, even with a new defensive coordinator. I don't think much of that is going to change for Clemson, and I think they might find themselves in a little bit more of a dogfight where well over a key number like 4, I think that's worth taking with LSU.
Clemson, by the way, in the ACC, plus money, and I don't know how long that's going to last. Plus 105 for them in the ACC. I know people like Miami. I know people like SMU. Maybe even think of Louisville as kind of one of those chippy teams that could contend, but I find it very hard to believe that Clemson is going to get overtaken in that league this year. I thought, honestly, when you were talking about Clemson for a moment, that you were going to bring up the forum that we saw about him.
Oh, yeah.
The line moved on. No.
The fake Cade Klubnik injury.
Best bets, though, here again presented by G-Bank. And G-Bank, remember, everybody, is built with sports bettors in mind. Right now, you can earn a $50 cashback reward bonus once you're approved and your account's open with the G-Bank Visa Signature Card. Well, most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when it's your own money. G-Bank treats them as regular purchases, so no cash advance fees, saves you 3 to 5% on every deposit right there. Plus, you get 1% cash back on all eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions, 2% cash back on anything else you buy. Apply now at vsin.com/gbank. That's vsin.com/gbank. Day 1, not too bad.
I mean, it's the same show except just 2 hours earlier.
That's true. But appreciate everybody who, is used to listening to us in the morning, saw the news, wanted to follow us and still hang out in the afternoon. Get excited, though. Even though we might be wrapping up, still a whole lot of programming still to come. Mitch and Paul are already waiting in the wings, ready to go for Follow the Money coming up next. Everybody, good luck with your bets, and we will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
For sure.
So I'm told.